Hi boys and girls, welcome to another edition of Books and Cooks. And today, in honor of Math Week at Anna Reynolds, I'm going to be sharing a story that revolves around the topic of math. I actually had two stories I wanted to do, but I didn't have the book for both of the stories. So I'm going to start with a math problem for all you brilliant mathematicians out there. In this story called The Cookie Fiasco by Dan Santat, it's about four characters, they're animals, and the problem is they want to share 3 cookies equally amongst the 4 of them, a fair share, as we call it. I didn't have that book with me today, but I still would like to see if we could do some thinking together and figure out that math problem before I share the story that I did have right here at my home. All right, so let's think this over now. We have 4 characters. We have 3 cookies. We want to split the cookies equally so everybody gets a fair share. Are you already wondering how is that even possible? Well, you're going to have to use your math skills on this one. You could use addition, you could use multiplication, you can use division. There's many ways to figure this problem out. But let me walk you through the way I was actually thinking of it. So I figured, right away my mind went to just split the cookies in half. That would probably be a great idea. So let me show you what would happen if I split my cookies in half, okay? If I split each one of these cookies in half, I would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. And if I gave 1 piece to each person, that would work until I got to the last cookie where I only had 2 pieces. And then if I gave this one a second piece and this person a second piece, then these 2 would only get 1 piece and these people would get 2 pieces, and that's not a fair share. So that did not work. So then I thought, okay, then I'll split it into thirds. I'll just take the cookie and I'll split it as equally as I can into thirds, in which case you would kind of have to draw it like that, almost like a peace sign, right? To make equal thirds. So then I thought, all right, let's figure that one out. So if I had 3 pieces on this one, plus 3 pieces from this one, plus 3 pieces from this one. 3 plus 3 plus 3 makes 9. I have 9 pieces. Does the number 4 go equally into 9? No, it doesn't. I'm going to have an extra piece. So then I thought, oh, okay, the number 4 goes equally into 8, right? I could put 4 into 8 and everyone would get 2 pieces, but I could not figure out how to get 8 equal pieces out of 3 cookies. So I just kind of kept thinking and thinking, and I said 3 and 4, 3 and 4. And then I started thinking about multiplication. What's 3 times 4? 12. Okay. How can I make these 3 cookies equally into 12 pieces? And then I thought, oh, I think I've got it. If each cookie was split into what we call quarters, 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1 whole, then I would have 12 pieces, right? 4 times 3 is 12, or I could even count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 kids goes into 12 how many times? Well, 12 divided by 4 equals 3, so everybody would get 3 pieces. So one person would get that many, the second person would get that many, the third person would get that many, and the fourth person would get that many, and then I would have each child with 3 pieces, and they would get a fair share. Isn't that cool? Now, I did all that math in my head. If you're not as good at that, work it out on paper. Work it out by moving things around. Work it out by taking the cookie and actually breaking it into the pieces. You know, I could actually break those into the 4 equal pieces and then see if it works. So there's lots of ways to figure out math. Being a mathematician is fun and it's great for your brain. Don't worry, I didn't ruin the story because in the end there's another problem where after they each get their equal fair share of cookies, they have to figure out how to split the milk. So I'm gonna let you go either on YouTube or and look up that story, and there's many people who've read it, and see if you could then figure out how they could split the milk up equally amongst the 4 characters. It's a great story. I'm definitely going to add this story to my Books and Cooks collection when I get back to school next year. But thank you, Mrs. Figueredo, for sharing that title with me because it just gave me another way to use my math skills. But in today's story, I have a story called, which still revolves cookies, okay, still revolves around the cookies, and still has to do with math, and it's the story called The Doorbell Rang. I don't know if you've ever heard this one by Pat Hutchins. I know kids in my reading groups, we've read this together before, and even as we've read it and practiced our fluency and our phrasing, we then acted the story out with actual cookies, and we did the math at the same time. So I thought this would be a great story to share with you in honor of Math Week. Sit back and relax and enjoy the story of how The Doorbell Rang by Pat Hutchins. And together we're gonna work out some math. You ready? I love this story. Okay, it starts out with Victoria and Sam and Ma. I've made some cookies for tea, said Ma. Good, said Victoria and Sam, we're starving. Share them between yourselves, said Ma. I made plenty. And if you really look carefully and you count the cookies, there are 12. So if there's 2 children and 12 cookies, and they're gonna split them equally, how many is each child gonna get? What's 2? How many times does 2 go into 12? Or 2 times what equals 12? That's 6 each, said Sam and Victoria. They look as good as Grandma, said Victoria. Oh, they smell as good as Grandma, said Sam. Oh, no one makes cookies as good as Grandma, said Mom, as the doorbell rang. Mom's busy mopping the floor and she's like, ooh, somebody's here. All right, and who's at the door? It was Tom. I should probably do it this way so you can see. It was Tom and Hannah from next door. Do you see them? Oh, come in, said Mom. You can share the cookies. Now there's 4 children and 12 cookies. How many times does 4 go into 12? Or 4 times what equals 12? So that they each get a fair share. Did you figure it out? That's 3 each, said Sam and Victoria. Oh, they smell as good as Grandma, said Tom. Oh, and they look as good too, said Hannah. No one makes cookies like Grandma, said Ma, as the doorbell rang. Oh dear, we've got the 4. Everyone's getting 3 now, and now there are more children at the door, possibly. It was Peter and his little brother. Come in, said Mom. You can share the cookies. Now how many kids are there? Let's do the math. 4 at the table, 2 at the door. 4 plus 2 equals 6. There's 12 cookies in all. 12 divided by 6 equals what? Or let's do the multiplication. 6 times what equals 12? The answer? That's 2 each, said Sam and Victoria. Ooh, they look as good as your Grandma, said Peter, and they smell as good. Nobody makes cookies like Grandma, said Ma, as the doorbell rang. All right, we started with 12. Now there's 6 people who want their fair share. Everybody's going to get 2. I think that's pretty fair. 2 cookies, that's a good snack. Sam and Victoria's face got a little bit sadder, though, as the book's going on, because they went from getting 6 cookies each, now down to 2. But their they're being good sports about it and they're still going to share. So when Mom said no one makes cookies as good as Grandma, guess what? Yeah, the doorbell rang. Oh no. It was Joy, Simon, and their 4 cousins. There's 2 here if you can't see them. They almost look like 1 on the screen. Come in, said Mom. You can share the cookies. Now we have 6 at the table and 6 at the door. 6 plus 6 equals, all my mathematicians out there, 12. There are 12 cookies and 12 children. So everybody can probably figure out how many is everyone going to get now for a fair share. 1. That's 1 each, said Sam and Victoria. And this time, their faces are really kind of sad. They smell as good as your grandma, said Joy. And they look as good, said Simon. Well, the new kids joining are excited to get the 1 cookie, but the ones that were already at the table have seen themselves getting less and less as they had to split them equally. No one makes cookies like Grandma, said Mom, as the doorbell rang. Uh-oh. They're already down to 1 each. Would you open the door? Or would you quickly eat that cookie before you open the door? What do you think they should do? And the doorbell rang and rang. And everyone's staring at the door, even Ma, trying to decide, should I open it or not? Do you think you know what's about to happen? Did you make a good prediction like good readers do? Oh dear, said Ma, as the children stared at the cookies on the plate. Do you know what she said? Perhaps you'd better eat them quickly before I open the door. Wow, Mom was giving them permission to eat the cookies and not share with whoever's at the door. What do you think the kids did? You know what Sam said? We'll wait. Wow, that is one kind child. We'll wait. So now whoever's at the door, they're going to have to figure out how to split those 12 cookies equally. And we know they're going to have to start cutting them up. You know who was there? How many kids do you think are there? It was Grandma with an enormous tray of more cookies. And the kids come running over because they're so excited. Oh, how nice to have so many friends to share them with, said Grandma. It's a good thing I made a lot. And I even tried to count how many were on there. There's way more than 12. I can't even count them all because some of them are overlapping. But there's still 12 at the table. And there are way more than 12 on the tray. So we know each kid is going to get at least 2 if I tell you there's more than 12, right? And because they waited, they're actually going to end up with more. That was really kind of nice and kind. But guess what? No one makes cookies like Grandma, said Ma, as the doorbell rang. Are they even worried about who might be at the door? Probably not, because I can tell you by looking, if I were to make a guess, there's probably at least 30 more cookies on this tray. And I highly doubt there would be 30 people at the door. And even then, everybody would get 1, which would be a fair share, right? But we don't know who's at the door because that's how the book ends. And I always said to the kids, okay, let's write a new ending. Who's at the door? What happened? Let's make it, tell me what number. How many cookies do you think Grandma has on her tray? Plus the 12. Tell me how many kids are at the door. and let's do some math. And we did a lot of fun math that way. That's something you could do if you ever get this book at home. You can act it out with real cookies. For instance, like these, right? Grandma had they had 12 cookies to start. First, there were 2 kids at the door, so they each had 6. Then there were 4 kids at the door. So if I were to split this equally into 4, I see 4 groups of 3, because 4 times 3 makes 12. So then they each were going to get 3, right? Then there were 6 kids at the door. So now I have to say, 2 goes into 12 6 times. So everyone's going to get 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, 2. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Everyone got 2. Then there were 12 kids at the door, and everybody had 1. And then Grandma came with another enormous tray of cookies. And if I were to tell you that I have 24 cookies on this tray, plus this 12, could you do the math and tell me if there are 12 children at the table? Let's see if we could figure that out. And I brought 24 cookies. And there were 12 still at the table. And we have 12 children. Let's add this up. 4 plus 2 is 6. 2 plus 1 equals 3. Now we have 36 cookies and 12 kids. I want you to think about that. How many cookies will each child get to get a fair share? Everyone has to get an equal amount. Do you know an easy way? There's a lot of ways to figure it out. I could actually take these 36 cookies and just start putting them out. 12, like put out 12, right? And then I could put 1 on top of each one of these cookies and then another one on top until I ran out, and then count how many were in each pile. I could do it that way, right? If I was a younger child and I couldn't figure it in my head, I could actually act it out, right? How many? Or I could say, in my mind, I started to think about this 24. 12 plus 12 equals 24. I know that. Some of you older kids might know that too. So that means there's one group of 12 cookies, another group of 12 cookies, and then the ones at the table. So if everybody's getting 1 from each group of 12, then I figured out everyone's going to get 1, 2, 3 cookies. That was another way to figure it out. Why don't you get some cookies and do some math? That would be awesome. That would be so much fun. Well, I did not make these cookies. These were fun to just act the story out with. But of course, there's always a cooking part to books and cooks. And how many of you know that I am pretty much the best cookie maker in the world? Everyone loves my cookies, in particular my chocolate chip cookies. And I thought I would share with you today my special homemade chocolate chip cookie recipe. And if you'd like to try it, watch what I do and then follow along in your own kitchen when you get all your ingredients. Are you ready? Do you want me to show you how to make my world famous chocolate chip cookies? But I'm gonna make it even more special. Instead of making individual cookies, and I usually make mine pretty big, I'm gonna show you how to make one pizza-sized cookie out of one recipe. It's gonna be awesome. You ready? All right, let me turn this camera and let me turn this down a little bit. So maybe, sorry about that, about my hands, so you could see. I have my KitchenAid mixer here. And I already started some of the ingredients. Let's see and make sure it's not too bright here. I'm sorry, I'm still adjusting this just a little bit. Okay, a little bit, okay. And I'm gonna show you how to make my famous chocolate chip cookies. First off, the first thing I need you to do, don't worry about writing the recipe down. Just buy a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips or milk chocolate chips, whichever ones you like, and follow the recipe on the back of the bag. Okay, that's what you're going to do. So I happen to be a big Y, so I bought the big Y ones. Sometimes I buy the Nestle Toll House, the ones that come in that yellow and brown bag. They just didn't have them, so I bought this kind. It does not matter what brand you use any brand you want, but follow the recipe on the back for chocolate chip cookies. Every bag comes with a recipe. The only difference is wherever it says butter, don't add the butter. Instead, I want you to add something called Crisco. And Crisco is vegetable shortening made of soybean oil. And this is a huge can because I do a ton of baking. So I always buy it in the big cans because it's cheaper to buy it this way. But if you don't bake a lot and you don't really want a lot of Crisco in your kitchen, you can buy it in sticks like this. And it comes in a package of 3 sticks on top of each other, and they come in a little plastic casing. And each stick is 1 cup. It's already measured out for you. Whereas if you buy it the way I buy it, oh look, I'm almost at the end of my Crisco. You have to measure it into a measuring cup. But either way, it will work, all right? So let me show you how to make the chocolate chip cookie recipe. I don't even have to look at it. I know how to do this. So, you start with a mixer, all right? And I'm gonna use my KitchenAid mixer today, which is super loud. So I had to do part of it ahead of time just so that I don't hurt your ears. The first thing you're going to do is take all the sugars and the Crisco and the vanilla, and you're going to cream it. It's called creaming it when you put all of that together so it comes out fluffy and smooth. And so I'm gonna give you the amounts, but I'm actually not pouring it in because I already creamed it, all right? So you're going to take 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And when you use brown sugar, you pack it really tight, okay? You buy a bag of brown sugar and then you get it in there and you push it down nice and tight. If I use 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup, that makes 3/4, okay? Or I could use 1/4 cup 3 times. Or I could use a whole cup and just leave 1/4 of it off. There's a lot of ways to measure 3/4 cup. So you would dump that in. Then you would do the same amount of white sugar. I don't know if you can see that, okay? You do the same thing. After that's dumped in, use those same measuring cups, 3/4 cup of white sugar. Then you're going to do 1 cup of Crisco, and you can either use this kind of measuring cup, which is 1 cup, and pack it tight and level it off and dump that in. Or you could just unwrap this Crisco and dump that in because this equals 1 cup. All the measurements are right here on the side to help you. So if you want to use that kind of Crisco, you can. And as soon as you get that in, I then like to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. All right, so you get your teaspoon out and you like that and you dump it in. Now, the difference is I would normally just dump it because I know, but I've done this so many times, I know what a teaspoon looks like, okay? But you're going to get your measuring spoon out and you'll pour it in and you'll dump it in. And then that's it for now. And then you're gonna turn it on. Now, when I turn this on, it is going to be so loud, but I need it to cream for like 3 minutes. So I did it ahead of time so we didn't have to hear it, but I'll let you hear it just a little bit. You ready? Do you hear that? Did you want to hear that for 3 minutes? I didn't think so. So I actually have a pantry room that all my KitchenAid mixers sit in. I actually have 3. And when I do that, I just shut the door and walk away and I just let it go for 3 minutes. I don't even listen to it, okay? When 3 minutes is over, I then add 2 eggs, all right? Now, you can either crack the egg into a bowl first and then dump the bowl in, or you could crack directly into here if you're really good at cracking eggs and you don't think you're gonna get any shells in, all right? A lot of cooks will tell you to do it into a bowl just in case your eggs are spoiled or something, but mine are never spoiled. I go through like 3 dozen eggs almost every single week, so mine don't get a chance to spoil. You decide, do you wanna crack them right in or into a bowl and then in? Once you put the 2 eggs in, now you're gonna cream it again for like 4 more minutes. Now, if you have a hand mixer, you're just gonna have to stand there and hold it, okay? But if you've got one of these fancy ones, now I'm gonna turn it on again. Ready? Here we go. 4 more minutes, okay? Let's just pretend 4 minutes went by, and you're probably thinking, don't you scrape the side of the bowl down with a spatula? Well, I don't have to because my mixer beater part, actually, I'll show you later, has a side on it that has a little spatula built right in. So it actually like scrapes the side of the bowl as it's beating. I mean, talk about fancy, right? But let me show you what it looks like. When the butter and the egg and the Crisco are all creamed together, do you see that? It looks like that. I don't know, I don't want it to look too shiny. All right, it's nice and like wet. All right, that's it. Now you're gonna add in the dry ingredients, which are so simple. You're going to take 2 1/4 cups of flour. Now what I wanna tell you about the flour is, you can scoop directly out of the bag if you want. With your, here's my 1 cup scooper. Now I could pull in and scoop out, level it off and dump it in. But what I've been noticing lately is the flour has been very dense, very packed together. And when you do that, you sometimes might get too much flour in and it'll make your cookie dry. So what I like to do is just throw some in a container and just aerate it by just mix it up a little bit, all right? Just kind of get it a little looser so it's not totally packed, all right? And then when you go to measure flour, the best way to do it is to scoop your cup in. Remember, we want 2 1/4 cups. Gently, lightly, and then you just kind of level it off and then you tap it, okay? And then you scrape the top like that. I didn't, and see, so it's totally level, all right, totally. I didn't like jam it in and pack it down like I did the brown sugar, okay? Then you go 1, all right? How many did I say? 2 1/4. All right, I'm gonna do another one. Again, level it back. Tap, 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 tap. Nice and flat. 2. And now I need 1/4 cup. So if this sugar wasn't in here, okay, I could use this, right? So then I would scoop in, tap, and I just like tapped it against the side, and I added another 1/4 cup. Okay, there's 2 1/4. Normally, I make 2 recipes at one time, so you would double all those ingredients. That's a great math skill too, all right? And then you add 1 teaspoon of salt. So you're gonna get your teaspoon out, you're gonna pour in 1 teaspoon and put it in, but guess what? I'm the magical perfect cookie baker, and I know that that's 1 teaspoon, so in it goes. And then you're going to do 1 teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder, and guess what? I know that what's left in here is about 1 teaspoon, okay? You will measure. Use your measuring spoons because you don't bake every single day for 59 years. Well, I guess I didn't bake when I was a kid, but I've been baking a long time. That's it. Flour, salt, baking soda. In, ready? Now we're gonna turn that on. Now here's where I start it low, so it doesn't poof all over me like it normally does. Then I go a little higher. Oh, it's going a little high. And I let the flour incorporate. You shouldn't have turned it on that high right away, okay? There it goes, okay? My beater is going around. The spatula is scraping it for me. If you don't have that kind, just get in there with your spatula. All right, now I'm looking at this, and this is perfect looking cookie dough right here. Let's see, can you see that? I'm trying to get the light not to be too shiny. There it is, okay? It's nice and, okay. Now when I'm touching it, do you see how that's sticking to my finger? That makes me realize that I just want a little more flour because I'm gonna be shaping this one into a pizza size. So I'm gonna go back to my flour and I'm just gonna add maybe another little scoop. Now, the reason why that might have happened is maybe my eggs were bigger. Or maybe this is a different kind of flour than the kind I used last week. Different flours are more dense, all right? But I know that I'm gonna want it to just not be sticky, okay? And I add that in. And then I check it out. Oh, this one looks perfect. Ready? Watch. Look, now my fingers, there it is. My finger's not sticking. It's perfect, right? Now is where you put your chocolate chips in. You can either put in 1 whole bag of chocolate chips, or you could put in a whole bag of white chocolate chips if that's the kind you like, or you could put in a bag of peanut butter chips if that's what you want. Just use that same dough, use any kind of chip. Most of the time what I'll do is I'll do half a bag of peanut butter chips and half a bag of chocolate chips if I know the person I'm bringing it to isn't allergic to peanut butter. But for today's sake, we are just going to use the chocolate chips, okay? Okay, let's see, I gotta get this open. Hang on. Where's my scissors? Sorry about that. All right, so in go the chocolate chips, and you're thinking, what? You're gonna beat them? Yes, I am. Sometimes people add them in by hand. I don't need to do that. Okay? There you go. And then, I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like that. Look at that. And here's my magical beater. Remember I told you it had this part on it? Look at, so this part's like metal. And then this part has that scraper beater on it. So as it's going around, it's actually scraping the side of the bowl for me. I mean, now that's a fancy beater, but wouldn't you expect me to have that kind of fancy beater? Of course. All right, so now you get all the dough off the beater like this, okay? And now is your chance to either decide, do I wanna make individual cookies? I can make them as big or as small as I want, and that's fine. Or do I wanna try to be very creative and make one pizza-sized cookie that then I can decorate with like frosting? I'm sure you've seen those pizza-sized cookies at the mall, right? That's the kind I'm going to make. And really, all you need to make a pizza-sized cookie is a big, giant tray. Now, it could be round if you want it to look like a round pizza, or it could be a square rectangular one if you want it to look like a square rectangular pizza. All right, I'm gonna show you what it should look like. Here it is. Okay, I go to Odd Job and I buy these. They're about $1 each when they're on sale. They're actually deli trays. They come with a nice lid that you could like put cold cuts on if you were having a party. But because they're metal aluminum, they go great into the oven. So I take it home, I wash it really good with soap and water and dry it really good. And then I use this to actually bake on. So you don't have to put anything on the bottom. Let me see, let me move this down just a little bit again so you can see it. Or I'll squat down for you this time. And you're gonna just scoop out the whole entire batter, the whole thing. Okay, that's it, the whole thing. Now, if you make a double batch, you could make 2 pizza-sized cookies, right? So you're gonna get 2 trays, or you could make 1 pizza-sized cookie, and then maybe some individual cookies on a regular cookie tray, as big or as small as you want. So now what you're going to do is with your very, very clean hands, just rinse my hands just a little bit. They're a little bit sticky. All right, you ready? Do I have anything to wipe my hands on? Yes, my dish towel here. Okay. So with your very, very, very clean hands, you're gonna start by putting a little bit of flour on this. Okay, let me get another paper towel here. Should be more prepared. Okay, ready? You should take your rings off. Don't have rings on when you do this, and you probably shouldn't have these floppy sleeves either, but I'm dressed because I'm actually going somewhere in a minute, and I'll tell you about that. So I'm a little bit more dressed up than normal, but see what's happening? I'm pressing it down and pressing it out, and just by adding that little bit of flour onto my hand, it's making this cookie not stick at all. And it's very, very, very easy to spread it out when you do it that way, okay? Don't be worried about, you're adding too much flour. You're not, because the dough was not very dry to begin with, look. So look what I just did, okay? Look at that. I spread it out. See what's happening? Okay. Then I take a butter knife, because I'm a perfectionist, and I usually go around the edges and I turn the pan. And this is not even necessary because it really just spreads out in the oven. I don't even go all the way to the edge. I go almost all the way to the edge. And then I just kind of level it off. I make sure the cookie's equal, like there's not like a big lump on one side and really skinny on the other side. And I just kind of make it like somewhat equal. It does not have to be perfect. And if my knife starts to get like sticky, I just drop it into the flour, and then I go like that around the edges if it starts to like pick up a little bit of the cookie dough. By the way, if you are one of those people that likes to eat cookie dough and you want to lick the beaters, that's something you have to ask your grown-up in your house if it's okay to do, because there is raw egg in it, and some people get worried that if you eat something with raw egg, you might get sick. Like I told you, you all know I'm almost 59. I've eaten raw cookie dough my whole life, and I've never gotten sick. But remember, you're gonna ask your grown-ups in your house what's best for you, all right? because I always taste the cookie dough just to make sure it's good. It's always good though. There it is, okay? Then I pop it, and see, I didn't go all the way to the edge because it's gonna spread out in the oven. Then I pop it into a 375-degree oven for like 10 minutes or so. But this is where you really, really have to watch your cookie. Don't leave the kitchen on this one, okay? I want you to watch the cookie and make sure that it doesn't get too brown. And I'm gonna show you what it should look like when it comes out. So you pop it in the oven, about 10 minutes. You're gonna have to watch your oven. And then it's gonna come out looking like this. Oh my gosh, look at this humongous chocolate chip cookie that I made. This is what the back looks like. Comes right off the tray, okay? Like that. And you could eat it like this. You could start dividing this, doing the math. You got how many kids coming over? 12. How are you gonna divide this equally into 12? 4 people, divided equally into 4. 6 people, divided equally into 6. You could do a lot of math with that, right? I would normally leave it on the tray and decorate it. And today is Mr. Smith's birthday. That's why I'm dressed so fancy. I'm gonna drive by his house in a little while, and I'm gonna drop him off some lobster mac and cheese, a delicious pear and cranberry salad, and a chocolate chip cookie that I decorated just for him. Do you want to see the one I made him? Because after you're done and it's all baked and this cooked one is on here, you then just get a can of frosting. You could do vanilla, you could do chocolate, and you get a cookie, a pastry bag with tips on it, and you decorate the edges. And if you don't have a pastry bag, just put it in a plastic bag and cut the tip off and, you know, do some fancy decorating, get your M&Ms out, your sprinkles, whatever. Okay, do whatever you want. And this is the one I made for Mr. Smith. Look at it. It says, "Happy birthday, Mr. Smith." And I chose chocolate for my edges and a little white for a little more fancy decoration, green frosting, and I wrote it, "Happy birthday, Mr. Smith," because I have all those decorating tips at my house. You might have to get those if you want to be fancy like this, but you could also just put, you know, blobs of frosting and then put candies on it. You don't have to be this fancy. And then I was like, oh, I want to put something special on it. Well, wait, he likes to work out, right? So I went into all my pantry to see what I had that kind of reminded me of him, and I really didn't have anything for working out, so I made my own weight. That's a cookie stick, and I put 2 marshmallows on the end like a dumbbell, because he's into Mr. lifting weights, you know, he's so strong like that. And then I found a Batman, and I said, oh, yeah, that reminds me of Mr. Smith. He's a superhero, right? He's our superhero principal. So I thought, I'll put Batman here, along with this little weight. I'll put it on top of the Happy Birthday, Mr. Smith. I have a nice fancy top here, because these trays come with fancy tops, okay? And I put a pretty bow on it, and I'll snap the top on, and I'll get the rest of the meal, and I'll drive over, and I'll drop it on his doorstep, and I'll ring the doorbell, I'll jump back in my car, and then I'll kind of drive away and watch and see if he comes and finds it. And if he doesn't, I'll give him a call and say, hey, there's some special treat for you for your birthday on your doorstep. What do you think? I think that'd be a great idea. And I'm wondering, how many people is Mr. Smith going to share his birthday cookie with? I don't know. He might have to cut it up and put it in baggies and then like share with his nieces and nephews the next time he sees them, because you know what he can do? He can actually freeze the parts of the cookie that he's not eating tonight and save it till he gets to see people again, because I don't know if he has anyone visiting him. Or he could go around the neighborhood and drop off pieces of cookie to his friends and say, help me celebrate my birthday. So we'll see. We'll have to ask him when we see him next time. What'd you do with that big chocolate chip cookie? And I'm going to say it's from all his friends at Anna Reynolds, and we're going to thank him for being such an awesome principal and tell him how much we miss him. Okay? So that's what we did today. Everyone remember, be mathematicians, make your chocolate chip cookies, big, small, share them equally amongst your friends, do the math. And until next time, you know what I always say, happy reading, happy cooking, and of course, don't forget to share. Goodbye.